The dark relationship. Does anyone know what the laws are regarding whether it is legal to put a hidden recording device in your house? I already used a VAR recorder but would like something more substantial. I have irrefutable proof. I just wondered if having images would be leverage I could use when negotiating. I don't want her to take my kids, and she probably wouldn't want her friends and family to know what she's done. That was why I wanted pictures. I just spoke with a counselor and he said never let her know what proof I have because she will never reconciliate if I have too much power over her. I don't want to even consider reconciliation at this point, but right now I am very, very angry. If we didn't have kids, this would be a lot easier. I'm going to take a few breaths and go for a walk. I couldn't sleep at all last night, so I had plenty of time to think about it. I am going to skip the camera. I couldn't watch it and retain any self-control, and it wouldn't benefit me legally in my state. I have also been thinking about what is in the best interest of the kids, and making this any messier than it has to be could only negatively affect them. I have what I need and will confront her in a few days after I cool off a little more and figure out what I am going to say. When I scanned her cell phone, there was no evidence of anything, so I let it go, but kept a lookout and saw a few major red flags over the past week, so I bought a VAR to prove to myself I was overreacting and that nothing was going on. I got her on it on the first use. I spoke with a lawyer. The lawyer said to consider our first and get counseling since there were kids involved, and to take some time to think things over and not act rashly while I am emotional. He said after that to proceed with D. I am far less worried about asset splits today than I was yesterday. My big concern is losing the house and having to move when she pulls her share of the equity out of it. I am worried that it will be hard on the kids, especially if they have to change schools. My parents would help me if I asked them, so that might not be as big of a deal as I think it is. I can't expose her like that. Too big of a risk to the kids. I'd be happy keeping the details private so we can have a better chance of working together through this mess in a way that is easiest for the kids. Either way, R or D, we both will have a hand in raising the kids and need to be able to be civil. I set out the VAR and got a recording of them sleeping together. It is clear enough that I know exactly who the OM is. Funny thing is that I am far more alpha than the OM. I just don't get what she was thinking. She's giving up a great life with me for nothing. I have decided not to videotape and to approach it discreetly with her in a couple of days. Since I am in a no-fault state, it really doesn't matter what the cause was, and no matter how much I want to hurt her over this, it isn't worth the potential damage to the kids. My first move would be telling her OM had better never set foot in my house again. That's the plan right after I talk with my wife. Dealing with him is lower on the priority list since he has no value to me, but he will be addressed. I'm outwardly calm but an emotional wreck right now. She's meeting me in a private place in a few hours so we can talk. At this point, all I am going to do is talk with her. I just need this to be out in the open and then I'll go from there. Here's the update. I confronted her on Friday and she lied and denied until I told her how I found out. Then she admitted to the whole thing. She said she is in love with the other man and he is in love with her. I then went to the other man's wife and told her, and she was grateful. OM's wife confronted her husband and he said he wasn't in love with my wife and called her to end the relationship. So where to go from here? We have had several open, honest conversations, finally, and I am satisfied with the info I got. We are going to work in the best interest of our children and meet with a counselor to discuss how and when to tell them about D. My wife wondered if we could but I told her I don't have the choice to even consider R since she is in love with someone else. We agreed to make no major decisions for a few weeks, until our emotions subside, and then we can work on the D. I'm getting attorney recommendations from a friend in a few days. I'm sure my wife wants to work past this from the point of insecurity, since she'll have neither relationship. But that isn't enough to have a marriage. The last 12 hours have absolutely sucked. Worst time in my life. She is going to want validation from him that their relationship wasn't hollow and will accept any lies he says so she can convince herself of it. As soon as his wife finally kicks him out is about when he'll contact her again. I hope she can pull herself out of the fog because she is going to have to heal too if she wants to ever gain control of her life again. And now I can't be there for her to help her through it. The weird thing for me is no matter how hurt I am, I still feel like I have a responsibility to try to bring her back to reality. I did something that was probably really stupid, but I wrote her a letter to try to snap her out of the fog. I'm sure she'll see it and read it in a couple of hours. I don't know why, but I really want her to get better and figure out an honorable life direction from here forward. I'm not too worried about the finances. She knows she is going to get a large settlement from me and she is going to need it to start over. So she has no reason to waste that money now on frivolous junk. There will be a lot of financial insecurity for her in the future and she recognizes it and sees her need to prepare. She is going to have a major decrease in lifestyle quality. I'll make an effort to work out and take care of myself. I've always exercised regularly and kept in good physical shape, but the past couple of days I just can't seem to get the motivation to do anything other than hang out with my kids. I'll talk with a counselor tomorrow. I'll also talk with my doctor when I go in for the STD check. We've been having a lot of very honest conversations lately and at least I know where I stand and the family stands in her eyes. We're number 2. She wants to reconcile but doesn't understand what that means. She thinks it's us working on strengthening our marriage and forgiving. What she doesn't see is that the only way for me to R is to see her infatuation for OM turn to outright hate for the damage he helped cause to our family. I'd need to know she'd crawl through the pits of hell for the good of our family because we are number one in her eyes again. Regardless of the toll it would take on her, she is embarrassed now and wants to hide, when in reality she should be calling my parents, friends, religious leader and apologizing and pleading with them to try to convince me to stay because her shame is less important than what she'd lose by hiding from it. I am her safety blanket. I provide emotional and financial security and give her a very easy life. She wants it again, but not the commitment to me that is required to get it. I see no option other than D at this point, but for the good of the kids we decided to wait a couple of weeks for our emotions to settle before we finalize that plan. My priority is my kids. I can't put them through anything until we are properly prepared to minimize the damage to them. I am waiting for a book that I ordered on how to talk to kids about divorce. I have no intention of trying to win back my WW, and I told her that yesterday. She is gone and our marriage is dead. I can accept that. Doing anything rashly that involves my kids isn't an option for me. When Mom moves out, we both have to be on the same page as to how to address it with them to minimize their emotional damage. I know talking isn't doing any good for her, but it is good for me. It has told me what I need to know so I can make my choice about how to proceed. It has shown me that I am not her priority, and neither is the well-being of our family. I'm having a lawyer friend get me names of good divorce attorneys. Once I get that, I'll schedule a meeting and proceed. It's been rough. I am over the shock and now trying to figure out where to go from here. My wife knows the odds are very slim of us fixing this. And because of that, she doesn't have much interest in putting forth the effort. She doesn't see that what I'd need to R is for her to give it everything she can to save the marriage and family. Despite knowing the odds are slim, we are going to a marriage counseling appointment today and hopefully we'll get some good advice. I still love her and it's really hard on me to separate my head from my heart. One of the bigger issues we've been having is she wants to listen to the recording of her and the other man, the conversation after the bonding, so that she can at least confirm that he really loved her and didn't want to discard her so easily. I told her no. She said she needs that to get over him, when I think she really needs that to justify to herself that her actions were worth it because she thinks he was her true love. I'll listen to the counselor's advice, but don't see any good that can come of her listening to it. Her suggestion is to try separation rather than divorce and see if we can work things out and fall back in love while living separate lives, and that maybe time apart is what we need to figure things out. I think that might be good for us, but I think it would be bad for the kids. I don't think giving them hope and then taking it away will make the transitions better for them. I told her last night that if the thought of losing me and breaking up the family doesn't drive her to fight for us, then there really isn't any hope. She said she is trying and has been spending time reading articles online, but to me that isn't a big enough effort. As per my suggestion, we have each made a list of reasons to R versus D and soon we'll discuss them to see if we are on the same page. I really know that D is the best option, but I'm having a hard time accepting the finality of it. She actually told me she thought it was not right for me to tape her without her consent. I told her that state law requires one person's consent, and since my voice was on part of the tape I consented. Comments: she was there. She knows what happened and what was said. This isn't a transparency issue. That's not why she wants to hear the recording. She wants to hear him say I love you, or whatever it was that convinced her of that. Over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's it. And here's why. In her mind, and there's some logic to this, things that were said between the two of them in private are much more likely to have been sincere and truthful than whatever he said about A, not loving her, and B, recommitting to his wife because both other man's BW and her own BH were both present and listening into the conversation. Step back and look at what's transpired at a very high level. Opus's WW initially indicated a desire to divorce, essentially stating that she'd fallen out of love with him. Opus subsequently asked her about counseling, working on their marriage, and she summarily shot all of that down. When asked if she'd become involved anyone else, she lied and said no. Opus came here and, after reading up a bit, decided to do some discreet sleuthing. Sure enough, she was having an affair, and was sleeping with OM in the marital home, no less. When confronted with knowledge of her affair, OP's WW continued to lie until the tape was mentioned. Even after confrontation, OP's WW remained set on her path to divorce, until OM summarily dumped her, having since indicated a, lukewarm at best, desire to reconcile. OP's WW is putting in exactly zero effort to that end. OP responds, I know there is really no way to R with her in her current mindset, but it is still hard for me to accept. When I look at her, I see wife I've known for years. Yet it is not the same person on the inside. I have the strength to do what needs to be done and file for D, but it is torture and I keep wishing for a way out so I don't have to do it. The thought of starting over is scary, especially when I married someone that I was totally compatible with and completely committed to. The problem is we are currently married, so she can go get a loan or credit card without my consent, and half the debt is automatically mine. I'd prefer to see what is happening in my accounts and not be surprised. Once I speak with the lawyer, I'll proceed with separating finances. As per his recommendations, we went and talked with the counselor, and he said a few things. 1. He thought listening to the tape would be very bad for her, but that I shouldn't try to control what she does. It should be her decision to make, even though it is a harmful choice. I told her ahead of the session that I'd follow his advice, so I'm going to let her listen to the recording. One time only. 2. He doesn't think our marriage can be saved because there has to be complete commitment from both parties to work through this. My wife is ambivalent, and I haven't decided definitively yet what I want, which means there is no chance. However, we should give it some time and a few counseling sessions before we make our final decision. He said give it at least a month and then see if we are or aren't committed to the marriage before we proceed. 3. We need to learn to forgive so we can co-parent our kids properly, regardless of what our situation is. The OM and his wife were good friends of ours. The two cheaters started a hidden at first and then progressed to a physical affair a few months ago, and it was mostly in the houses when the spouses were out. I noticed the behavior change right away after it started and tried to talk with her and figure it out, but got nowhere. I really know there is no way to reconcile since she isn't committed to us, and I have told her that, and so did the counselor. I am meeting with my boss on Monday to discuss work flexibility so I can be primary with the kids since she will have to get a full-time job. She was a stay-at-home mom. I have discussed the issue with my parents, religious leader, and some close friends. I have called the bank about options to pay her settlement, changed passwords to my accounts, and looked into taxes. I still need to meet with a lawyer and do some IC. I really appreciate the advice from everyone. It is hard to let go to someone when you have been with them for most of your adult life. I'm not scared to be on my own, but I'm mourning what we had, and that is where the difficulty and indecision are coming in. I'm not normally indecisive. I've always known my path in life and followed it. This is also the first time I have had that control taken from me. The real reason she wants the recording is to try to convince herself they had a real connection. If the OM called her and wanted to meet up just to discuss their relationship one last time, she'd do it behind my back in a minute, and then end up on her back a minute later. I'm no fool. The damage is done. If she wanted R, she would have to get over him, and she isn't. The only person this is really going to hurt is her, and she was warned by both me and the counselor. She's an adult and can make her own decisions, even if they are bad ones. She's not mine anymore, so my advice doesn't matter. I spoke with my lawyer friend, and he said it's okay for making the recording. I followed my word and let her listen one time in private and then erased the recording. I asked what she felt afterwards, and she said that she felt nothing. She didn't feel heartbroken, the need to throw up, or upset with him. Very telling of where she is. She said she doesn't want to work towards reconciliation because she knows I am set on divorce and that no matter what I do my mind is made up. That also says a lot. If she cared, she'd try to change my mind even knowing the odds were slim. She is still in the fog, and I'm not going to fight it. We both agree we need to be as amicable as possible for the benefit of our children. She is going to go to counseling, and in a couple of weeks I am going to meet with an attorney and start getting things moving. We are still in communication, but it is occasional and only about things like returning various things left at our house, etc. I should be running into her in a few days at an event, so I'll talk with her briefly. I know my wife wants continued contact. She feels like she has given everything up out of her love for the OM, and because of that she really wants to have him. It sucks to recognize, but maybe will make it easier for me to get through this mess. I am not pursuing R at this point because my wife is in love with another man. I have been an excellent husband and father, but she has changed. Her words. When I first start noticing she was distant, I did my best to try to improve our relationship and my contributions to it, and she rejected those changes. I now know the reason was with the affair. She gave her heart to another man and changed her priorities to where they are no longer in line with mine. I frequently tell my kids that a man's job is to make the right decisions, no matter how hard they are, because men have conviction and honor. She can cheat on me, but she doesn't get to change me or take my manhood away. That is not hers, and I won't give it to her. I am taking a few weeks to think and talk with family, friends, and counselors, but I see no way out other than divorce. She wants to R, but in a rug-sweeping way. I won't accept that. I told her if she wants R, I need her to hate the other man for what he did to us and need her to commit completely to me and the family. She has taken no action to fix anything. She is depressed, but still is thinking about the other man and her reputation, rather than about us and what is best for our family. I freely admit that I still love her, or at least who I thought she was. But that isn't enough to make us work. If we can't be good role models for the kids on what a happy marriage should be, we need to be good role models in how to live separate lives and still get along with your ex. I will still treat her with respect and not try to cheat her out of anything in the D that is rightfully hers, as long as she plays nice. Because that is not the type of person I am. I am in favor of a true R, but her heart isn't in it and I refuse to be her second choice. I am too good for that. I gave her 100% and I expected back. I won't settle for less. I really wish things were different and that she could see clearly. By the time she figures out what she lost, I'll be long gone. She came clean about everything since she no longer has anything to hide. I started noticing behavior changes within a couple weeks of it originally starting. It took a while for me to suspect an affair because it was so out of character for her. We are going to do split custody, so she will lose seeing them quite a bit compared to what she was used to as a stay-at-home mom. I will too. It is just another consequence of her actions that unfortunately hurts everyone. The decision to divorce I have to make because she is unable to make any real decisions at this point. She chose the other man and is still choosing him, despite him refusing to have anything to do with her so he can reconcile his own marriage. Our marriage is not fixable without her giving a genuine effort to try to fix it. I really wish it was. She needs to find herself first and decide how she wants to live her life. Maybe that will eventually include me, but for now she is not choosing me or my family. I just can't accept that and feel that I have been given no choice about reconciliation because she won't commit. I'd give anything to make this mess go away, but I realize that I have to accept who she is today and realize that is different than the person I thought she was. She also needs to accept who she is and what she's become. Hopefully, if she accepts it, she can recognize her mistakes and change for the better. I absolutely do not want to break up my family. I just need some hope that there is a real way to hold us together and work through this. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any actions that give me even the slightest chance of hope. I am back from my trip and had plenty of time to think about what I really wanted in a partner and for my future. We both agree that D is the best option for us. I'm working with an attorney and moving forward with the process. Since we have kids, we'll be in each other's lives forever, so we are trying to keep things friendly. That's actually not hard since we've always liked each other and had a good marriage prior to the affair. We'll probably be at each other's place quite frequently and do family activities together. At least in the beginning. I think that will be the easiest transition for the kids. This whole process sucks. I wouldn't have believed that my life would take this turn if I was asked a year ago. I don't know if the affair is still going on. She says no and said that he won't speak with her. At this point, it doesn't really matter to me since we aren't trying to stay together. I don't think they were in contact when I was out of town, but who knows? She told me she called him once and left a message, but he didn't call back. That's all I know about. But like I said, at this point it doesn't matter. Once she is set up in her own place, she will be free to do whatever she wants. Update: I'm doing okay. Just working on getting the divorce paperwork finished up. I'll post additional details after everything is finalized. I ended up going to an IC and really should have gone sooner. It's helping a lot. The kids are doing great with the change. Divorce should be final in September. The D and child custody negotiations were easy. She told me what she wanted. It was reasonable, so I agreed to everything. I don't know if the OM is still in the picture. She says he isn't, but I can't verify either way. I have no desire to do a big exposure. She is free to live her life any way she wants, even if that means pursuing the other man. What good would come from exposing her at this point? She already has the shame and guilt to contend with, and I can't see any benefit to her or me since we aren't staying together. We are amicable, which is the best choice for minimizing impact to our kids, and it is also helping us both work through the transition. No point in exposing and complicating things. Our close friends and family know, and that is enough for me. I'm not angry anymore and am settled with the situation as it stands. The final update. Well, I went to court today and it is finally over. It was very difficult to do and I felt like throwing up the whole time. I followed the advice on here and acted quickly, which I'm sure saved me a bunch of money. She was too embarrassed and ashamed to ask for alimony, so I just had to give her a lump sum payment for her share of the assets. She picked the amount and it was reasonable. And pay child support. We are doing split custody of the kids, so I get to see them a bunch, and that also cuts my child support payments in half. We are amicable for the most part, and the kids are also doing okay and adapting. It's good to put all of this behind me, and now I can move forward with my life. For those of you wondering, she did ask about reconciling about a month ago, and we discussed the issue in depth. She told me what she wanted, and I told her what I wanted. Her terms were not acceptable to me, and my terms were not reasonable to her. So we both mutually said no to each other. She had a couple crazy moments where she called me up to scream at me for being unwilling to take her back and work on things. But I was prepared for that to happen and didn't let it get to me. I completely understand her being upset. She had an easy lifestyle where she was an upper middle class stay-at-home mom, kids in school, too, and was married to a great guy, and lost it all to an affair with a guy that didn't really want her. She's now traded her nice house, which I kept, for an apartment, got a part-time job, lost her family dynamic that she valued, and heavily disappointed her friends and family. She's currently living above her means and will probably blow through her settlement in a couple of years if she doesn't lower her lifestyle standards, work more hours, or find someone else to support her. It's a tough pill to swallow, and I think it will be a while until she gets past it. I will freely admit that I still love her and wish we could have been able to stay together. But I am a man with standards and some lines just can't be crossed. The past week has been tough emotionally and I am still going to IC. The plan for the future is to take some time for myself to adjust to being divorced. Luckily, I have lots of people that support me and I'll probably be leaning on them for some time. Her idea of reconciliation was me putting the divorce on hold and going to marriage counseling to see if she could get over the other man and fall back in love with me and regain her attraction to me. IMO, she wanted rug sweeping. I wanted true commitment and remorse. I told her that I was only willing to reconcile under 4 specific conditions. She needed to be completely over the other man, which she wasn't. She had to accept full responsibility for her actions and the consequences, which she didn't, since she still blamed her affair on problems in our marriage and was angry that I filed for divorce. She had to accept that I picked the timeline for reconciliation. I wouldn't put the divorce on hold at this time because I wanted her to want to reconcile because she wanted me, not because she was trying to avoid the consequences of her actions. Like getting divorced, she had to also understand that at any time during reconciliation we would be free to say it wasn't working and call it quits. The other man initiated no contact with my ex-W, so she never got the chance to do it. She never did take full responsibility for her actions, which was her prerogative. I did my part and firmly established what I would accept if we were going to continue our relationship, and she couldn't meet those standards. I'm not worried about karma. I hope my ex-W finds what she is looking for and finds a way to be happy. She's not a bad person. She just made a choice that had consequences she wasn't prepared to accept. I didn't use the 180 completely. I've been so focused on my kids and doing what was best to maintain an amicable relationship with their mom so that we could co-parent that I couldn't completely detach. Instead, I set my standards and stuck to them, and still tried to be nice, but obviously not a pushover to her in the process. From my understanding, the 180 helps get your spouse back. Since my spouse didn't really want me back, I focused on the next best thing, which is getting along in a mature and respectful way for the kids' benefit. I did, though, start doing my own thing without her, which included reconnecting with family and friends and staying busy with hobbies and social activities. Plus, I am working out a lot and getting into really good shape. That's part of the 180. 2 months later, I'm doing really well. My ex-W, on the other hand, is a hot mess, and I'm trying to stay away to prevent from being dragged down with her. She is doing the thing where she is pretending to be a nice, respectable woman with a good relationship with me around her friends and family, but then in private is drinking heavily, I think sleeping around, and pissing away her divorce settlement. As I originally said in one of my first posts, I'm pretty convinced she is going through a midlife crisis and I don't want any part of it. Her biggest recent screw-up was she did some drunk driving and caused a major car accident. Luckily no one was killed and she was the only one injured. I let her stay on my couch for a couple weeks while she was recuperating, which I'm not sure was the best idea, and I don't really know why I did it. Maybe for old time's sake, maybe because she has no one else around that would. Maybe for the kids, maybe because it felt like the right thing to do. I don't really know. I'm not going to go into specifics, but during that time it opened my eyes to how far lost she is and how an amicable relationship with her isn't possible. She is totally self-centered and lies to me constantly, and I'm slowly cutting ties and transitioning our relationship into one where our only interaction is about the kids. I didn't tell her this, I just started doing it, and I'm firmly establishing boundaries. More boundaries will be established when I change our parenting plan once her Dewey get through the court system. I'm a long-term planner and expect that within a year she'll be bankrupt. At that point I want our personal relationship, friendship to be so long gone that she doesn't come looking for a place to stay or money. Even if she does, I won't give anything to her, but I'll be happy to take my kids. She said I was boring and she wanted excitement in her life, and I have a feeling she is going to get more than her share of it, but it won't be the good kind. I'm doing preemptive damage control because I don't want to be caught up in her mess. Instead, I'll just provide the stability my kids need as her charade of a life collapses around her. Personally, I'm adjusting well to the divorce. I have time for myself and am enjoying doing projects around the house, traveling a little, and pursuing hobbies. I've gone out a couple of times with girls for drinks, but no one has sparked my interest yet. The divorce benefited me financially, which is an unexpected bonus. I've also strengthened my relationship with my family and friends, which was overdue. Mostly now I'm just doing my own thing and enjoying myself, while at the same time trying to minimize drama spillover from the ex. The youngest one is doing great. In his life everything is good and happy. The older one has been doing okay. Definitely not focusing as well on school. Challenges me when I tell him to do simple chores, and mopes around a lot. He's not that bad, but I can tell a change. I think he's just more in tune with the situation due to his age, and it is obviously a harder transition for him. I feel badly for him, and from what I've read it will be a year or two until everything normalizes in his world. 1 year later. Today is the 1-year anniversary of my divorce, so I thought I'd give an update of how things have gone. I've had quite a bit of time to self-reflect and really look hard at what happened in my marriage, how it failed, and think what the future may be like. Hopefully, I have learned enough that I can prevent similar problems from happening in the future. Looking back at our time married, I was a great husband and father, so was caught off guard during this mess. I had always made my family my priority, respected and supported my wife in her decisions, communicated directly whenever there was a problem developing so that things didn't spiral out of control, was professionally successful and kept physically attractive, and took charge in the direction my family was headed and made good decisions for our future. The only decision I regret during my marriage is that when my ex-W decided she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and not work, even after our kids were in school. I agree, but under the condition that we live frugally for a few years until my next big raise, which she was unable to do, and I should have recognized that early. She ended up stealing money from her retirement plan to supplement her play money. All done behind my back, and I think that built up her resentment towards me because she knew I wouldn't approve of her making such a poor financial decision. I think that because of this and me having the dominant personality in our relationship, that she felt that she didn't have enough control of her life. She also had some unresolved depression from the death of her parents several years ago and used alcohol as a coping mechanism. I think that when the opportunity to cheat arose, all the dominoes were in place. She felt like she was able to be fully in control of her life by making decisions that only benefited her, and the thrill she got from cheating blocked her depression from her parents' deaths. I know that some spouses may rewrite history after the trauma of an affair and say they were a great spouse during the marriage, but in my case, I truly feel that way. One of the more telling ways I've come to believe that is that during the divorce process, not a single one of her family, her friends, our family, our friends, my family, or my friends stood up for her and said I should give her a second chance. To reiterate, not a single person stood up for her. I didn't make our friends choose sides because I knew my ex-W needed their support far more than I did, and our joint friends told me afterwards that they appreciated not being forced to choose because none of them would have chosen her. Again, very telling. Emotionally, it was very hard to let go. We had all of those years together without major problems and always had a great connection. Since we had the relationship type where I was the strong one and was there to support her during her hard times, it was very difficult for me to see her hurting after she was caught and not be able to step in and try to fix things. I absolutely wanted to, but the moment she told me that she'd rather be with the other man even if it broke up our family, I knew it was over. That was also the instant I recognized that she didn't meet my standards for a wife despite how much I cared for her. The first year single was full of changes. Initially, I tried to be friends with my ex-W and found pretty quickly that wasn't an option. She continued to lie to me regularly, snooped through my house when I wasn't home, made some poor parenting choices, and caused a major drunk driving car accident, just to name a few of her problems. Over the next few months, I became angry with her for all of these things and couldn't stand anything to do with her. I think that was still just part of the grieving process, and it passed after a few months. After that, I was finally ready to just maintain a civil relationship with her as needed to properly raise our kids, and that's how things are going today. I really don't care how she is doing since it isn't my business, but I hope she gets her life figured out. Our mutual friends now describe her as having a dark cloud over her head and acting perpetually unhappy, which is unfortunate, but she's solely responsible for it. Probably the most beneficial life change for me is that we had a major role reversal. Back when we were married, I was busy developing my career and leaned heavily on her for keeping the family running. Since the divorce, this has completely flip-flopped. She is now working as a secretary, so she doesn't get the freedom, flexibility that I have in my schedule. I'm a salaried professional and get to pick my hours to fit my parenting obligations. Since I've had to fill this parenting void, I've become a much better father and am far more interactive with the kids. It's to the point where the kids have noticed and routinely tell me how much they appreciate it and how good of a dad I am. So that's a major win. I've also developed far stronger relationship with my family and friends that supported me during the divorce process. So that's another win. It took about 6 to 8 months, but my kids have adjusted quite well to their new living situation, which was a huge relief. I only have custody of them half-time, which is my biggest regret. It's not as bad as I thought because I'm somewhat of an introvert, actually an extroverted introvert. So having a quiet house for part of the week is manageable. Since I don't like to sitting around, I've been using my time to pursue hobbies, exercise a lot, and engage in a variety of religious, philanthropic, professional activities. I took a break for about 6 to 8 months after the divorce before I started thinking about future relationships. I have been dating casually, which was really easy to get back into. I'm fortunate that I've never really had trouble finding women that are interested in dating me. I have not committed to anyone yet, and don't know if that is something I will want again. I guess I'm just not sure if a serious romantic relationship is worth the risk, especially since I'm at the age that I'm not looking to have any more kids. I am also keeping my kids as my top priority, and I'm not willing to divert time away from them for a relationship. Maybe that will change in the future. But for the meantime, I communicate this upfront so there are no surprises. I'm also recovering quickly financially. After the increased taxes and child support payments, I take home less money than before, but through budgeting and lifestyle changes, I've been able to actually come out pretty far ahead. In about another 6 months, I'll be better off than I was before the divorce. I am now planning on other ways to enjoy the financial benefits, and my current ideas include going on trips overseas, buying a sports car, home improvements, etc. I guess I'll just have to decide what's most important to me and do that. All in all, despite occasionally missing the good times we shared, I'm convinced I made the right choice. I was a good husband, and when she became someone that wasn't wife material anymore, I ended the marriage decisively and with my self-respect intact. In the process, I became a better father and have developed stronger relationships with the people that are close to me. Since I can't go back in time and prevent the collapse of my marriage, I'll just be thankful for how everything else has turned out. I have to pay child support because I make so much more money than she does. There's a 6-figure difference between what we make. I also have to pay the kids' medical insurance and a larger percentage of the other kid expenses. It's just the way the court does things, so the kids can have a similar lifestyle with both parents. I think women are attracted to me primarily because I'm successful, smart, and good looking. In shape, I'm not a supermodel, but above average for my age bracket. I also don't fear rejection, and I don't let women walk all over me, so I think I'm a bit of a challenge for them. But that's all speculation. Few months later, so post-divorce, I found out that when we were married, my ex-W was secretly cashing out her retirement account and spending the money without paying income tax on it. Since we were married at the time, I was legally responsible for the debt just as much as she was, even though it was hidden from me. So, when that eventually caught up with us and triggered an audit, post-divorce, I checked into my options and found out that the IRS has a form for an innocent spouse appeal. Yesterday I got the news that they found in my favor and all of the debt is 100% hers. This is just a reminder to anyone in a similar situation with the IRS to check out your legal option and file the appropriate paperwork in a timely manner. They were extremely helpful on the phone, and 15 minutes of paperwork saved me a decent chunk of money. This is one heck of a nice Christmas present from them. I don't know really how her finances are doing since I only discussed the kids with her. There have been some really big clues that money's getting tight, but I don't ask any details since it really isn't my business anymore. 3 years later, my divorce gave me a second chance to refocus my life and live out my dreams. Over the past 3 years, life has continually gotten better, and I feel like I've moved from my absolute lowest to a perpetual high. I've gotten to travel throughout the States and other parts of the world, developed stronger bonds with my family and friends, further advanced my career, become financially better off, and gotten to experience a physical life that would make most people jealous. I'm now in a happy and healthy relationship that is full of excitement, respect, and compassion with a woman that really loves and appreciates me for who I am. And I couldn't be happier. In essence, everything is going as it should, so I'm going to take this time to focus and appreciate the good things in my life. My comment: you guys wanted a non-doormat story, and I delivered. Hope you guys like this video. Subscribe, check out the other ones I've uploaded recently, and prepare for more Love TV.